The differences between these two parts of our being is that the soul part is the part that has a personal truth that was shaped by your wounding as a child. Yeah, so whether every person knows what their personal truth is, or what the truth that they're not speaking, or the truth that they're not living. It's always there. It's there for you. I don't like to use words like higher self, because city slickers just click off. We switch off when we hear things like higher self if it's something that you haven't been pondering on. But personal truth is something that every single person knows, where a value of theirs is being challenged in life and where you've sold out. And that's how accessible this topic of personal truth is. Your personal truth is guided by your values, and your values are always from inside. They're always internal. This part, however, the part that is your egoic mind, the part of your mind that's creating identity, it's completely subject to these laws, right? So it's got deductive reasoning, it's got a negative slant towards the self, and it builds a model of reality based on pleasure and pain. The thing about the ego, yeah, it just means I in Latin. Ego just means I in Latin. And every time you say I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I don't like that, what's going on is a part of your mind is making the self-image of this I that you keep on talking about, that doesn't like things and does like things. And this image over here is called the self, the I, the ego. That's all it means. But this I is looking for identity. And the way that it does that is, like I explained before, is through deductive reasoning. If I have this, then I will be whatever I think everybody thinks it is. And this is all physical stuff. That's all external. So the list, yeah? If I have that car and not that car, then I will be whatever. If I have this house and not that house, then I will be whatever. If I have this partner with that body, then I will be whatever. If I have this body, then I will be. If I have these clothes, if I have this story, if I have this job, if I have this holiday, then I will be. And so we spend a big part of our time following goals that we thought were worthy of our time and of our efforts, that were actually illusions, because we thought that we were chasing something external. Right? But when you're able to flip the pleasure and pain to understand that this is not an axis of sensation, but it's an axis of teacher or motivation, then you have a rearrangement here. And remember what I said about transformation a couple of days ago? Transformation is when there is a rearrangement of priorities or values that results in a change of routine. It's when you get to do a whole bunch of things that have a different experience to the one that you're currently doing. Now, where does this all originate from? It all originates from your personal way of being, your personal archetype, the ones that we did on the very first coaching session. Because why does this work? Because of this. This is the part of your mind that's looking for identity. Your personal archetype is an identity. So once you slot your personal archetype into this part of your mind, by constantly asking yourself, how would better me do this? How would powerful me do this? Whatever the name of your personal archetype is, when you can just consult with yourself. Just like when I was asking you all, how does a king sit? You knew how that was. You knew how a queen sits. You knew how that was different from a princess or a prince. You knew this without asking anyone. And I'm telling you that the exact same process can happen with your own archetype. With your own archetype, you can go from one way of being and seamlessly and effortlessly slip into a higher experience of life simply by becoming quite obsessed, at least initially, with your personal archetype. Because it's only a matter of time before it clicks in. When you had a new partner or a new job or a new anything, and you didn't know what the rules were, you didn't know how they liked their food or how the company deals with customers or clients, you had to go through some sort of training, through some sort of familiarity process where you built enough of familiarity that you could become that spouse or that partner or that employee or that manager, which is just an archetype. But at some point, what I'm saying is at some point, it just clicked. Yeah? And you got it. And you didn't have to ask the person anymore. How do you like things? What food do you like? How do we deal with this problem? You didn't have to ask anyone because it just clicked. You became that archetype. Does that make sense? So the crux of the session is another big penny. Yeah. Not afterwards. By slotting your personal archetype, which was done through what I call, it's a double projection, because you've got to make judgments on yourself and then make a judgment on the judgment of yourself. So it's effectively inverting the inverted. We made the negative, the unconscious, positive by inverting it. We just followed the laws of correspondence. Does that make sense, guys? So once you have that new archetype, your new way of being, you can slip that into here and you can seamlessly and effortlessly experience breakthrough in your life. Just by asking this part of you, how do I create that action that's going to give me that life experience, which up until now has just been eluding me? Any questions, guys? Yes, by slipping it, but you can transform into a new way of being and experience breakthrough in your life by asking yourself, how do I create this action, which is ultimately an expression of that archetype? Remember, the same way that the fruit is an expression of the tree, you can ask yourself, you can ask whatever Annabelle was on the new way of being, you can now ask yourself, how do I write this email? How do I tender for this project? How do I have this difficult conversation with this person? How do I set this boundary? How do I go out and look for this house? How do I everything? Because at some point, you just get it.